Cuckoo. 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 Cuckoo.
Hey everybody, today I've got a great pair of Beastbox owls to take a look at. These two are widely regarded as among the absolute best figures in the entire line, and with good reason. And I'm going to tell you why. For this review I'll go over figure details, a transformation demo, a photo intermission, and I'll wrap it up with a box grade, so let's get into it. Starting off, there are actually 3 owl releases to date. You got Nocturne, which was a very limited release from last year, White Noise, which was the initial version of this mold, and a new one that just came out called Rhapsody, which is a repaint of White Noise. So between these 3, you can't go wrong with any of them. They're all high quality production pieces. As of yet, Nocturne is the only one that's specifically a horned owl, which are characterized by a set of feathers that sort of look like horns. Here's a photo of a real life horned owl. And here's my cat doing her impression of a horned owl. So we'll get these guys out of the way here real quick, and we'll start with their packages. Starting with White Noise, this is BB-41. Both part of that bird faction, of course. You got the 5th anniversary logo, pretty cool line art of White Noise on the front and all the way around the box. I can't read Chinese, but if my machine translator got this correctly, the name of the designer is Thunderbird Workshop, and kudos to them for making one of the absolute best Beastboxes ever made. We'll take a quick look at Nocturne's package. This one's designated as BB-49. Cool artwork around the sides again, Thunderbird Workshop, just an awesome figure all the way around, so very cool stuff. Moving on to box contents, it's the same thing you've seen 100 times, so we're just going to touch on this real quick. They come with instructions, a character card, a box charger insert, a catalog, usual stuff. I do want to take a look at these character cards. By comparison, interestingly enough, their stats are pretty close, so I guess White Noise is a little bit more courageous, a little bit quicker, Nocturne's just a tad smarter, has a little more defense and a little more strength, so got some interesting offsets there. Alright, PTSD is one of the most troubling psychological disorders for Beastbox warriors. The disorder may be hidden deeply in every resistor and can cause unbearable pain in mind for the victim. Yeah, so Beastboxes have emotions apparently. The situation lasted until White Noise finally arrived by listening to the broadcast of the sound, which has a chance to relieve from the pain which they suffered for so long. So basically White Noise is a therapist. That's funny. On to Nocturne. The trace of Nocturne can only be seen during the night, a full moon because it's the only perfect circle. I have no idea what that means, but yeah. And there is the best match of her singing voice. So Nocturne is a she. From her point of view, White Noise is too chatty and Blossom is too flattering. Those are displays of inferior music skill. Nocturne needs no audience and sings only for this night. So yeah, Nocturne is a singer. Yeah, so I get a kick out of reading these character cards because the designers are definitely instilling some real character into their figures, and not just the characteristics of the animal. I think that's really charming. Last thing we're going to talk about for package contents is their box chargers. I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but being a limited release, Nocturne did come with a custom box charger, which is super cool. White Noise comes with a standard version. It opens, closes, and the character fits right in there. This one is a nice, very beautiful deep purple with this great looking insignia on the front with some extra ornamental graphics, all inlaid with gold paint. Beautiful. Okay, moving on to graphic applications. White Noise is of course very white, has some nice bright orange accents, translucent gold eyes, beak, and claws. It also has very beautiful gold accents, all very tastefully done. This almost looks like a royal crest or something like that. These intricate little ornate patterns, which I think looks fantastic. And Nocturne, of course, is just as gorgeous. You got this deep indigo and some deep blues. You got the bird faction symbol, really cool graphic applications all in gold. And there are also these pale metallic blue accents on the chest and forehead. Bright blue accents are kind of a color counterpoint to White Noise's orange, and if you look at it in greater detail, there are more or less 1, 2, 3 shades of indigo, plus this medium blue, purple transparent claws and horns with transparent amber beak and eyes rounding out this figure's color scheme in style. There's also a nice light piping effect, although it's a little tough to hit the correct angle. This one's a spooky looking little fella. So articulation on these is absolutely incredible. You got a ton of realistic articulation in the claws and legs, they can bend forward and backwards, and the tail can pivot. I want to point out the fact that this turns into a perfect cube, yet the owl forms a fairly organic shape. Pretty well formed all the way around. The wings are highly articulated, they can extend out or fold down like a bird on a perch. It has a pretty good stretch of wingspan. They can pivot forward and down and even fold back for a realistic looking bird in flight. The head has an unbelievable amount of articulation. It can go forward and back if you need to do an owl quagmire thing. One cool gimmick that's unique to each owl is they each have their own articulated headpiece. Even the little beak can open and shut. So the head can rotate 360 and pivot sideways for kind of a quizzical look. It's just absolutely incredible what you can do with these. So like I said before, both of these have unique head sculpts with an action feature on their crest. For the horned owl, the ears can be raised up or fold down, and the forehead crest can fold down, so this one can look like an angry bird. The difference with white noise is its cowl, which can fold down and make a mask. And something else I'll point out is these flared out feather pieces on the sides of the head. So when you transform it, these pieces actually fold up as you bring the head up, and they flare out automatically when you pivot the head down. Another thing I want to point out is the previous bird mold had a 2mm port on their feet for their perch. More recently, they revised that to 3mm, and I think so far Blossom might be the only one that included that 3mm update. Those 2mm pegs broke off too easily on the perches, so I'm pretty sure they changed that to make the standing function a little more durable. Obviously that means these birds won't fit on an original parrot stand, but they will work just fine on Blossoms. So, and again, amazing articulation on this figure. You can fold the claws down and give it a very realistic looking bird on a perch. So I'll touch on some drawbacks for this particular figure design. There's a lot to be said about these figures regarding their overall design, insane amount of articulation, and the fact that these fairly organic shapes fold up into nearly perfect cubes. And of course, there's only so much you can do with a limited set of parameters. There's always going to be some type of trade-off. So for this particular mold, those are pretty minor, but it's worth taking a look at. You see most of this on the backside. In order to get that perfect cube shape, those flat edges have to be hidden somewhere. So yeah, you've got this huge flat backside, although they did manage to soften that up a bit with this large rotating piece. You have flat edges here along the shoulders and this huge hollow piece on the back of the head. Again, I think the trade-off is totally worthwhile for what you can do with this thing. And I also want to stress that this is a functional hollow part. It's quite a bit different from the shit you get from major toy manufacturers, where they often just do it to save weight and materials and still charge you a premium for their figures. To me, the wings are a little bit on the dinky side. I mean, if you're not really focusing on the wing proportions, they're totally fine. But when you put it up against the parrot mold, I think the conceit falls apart just a little bit. As a point of comparison, if you do a 360 around the parrot, it's much more organically shaped. Plus you have these cutout feathers on the wings that look a lot more like bird wings as opposed to the owls, which look fine, but to my eye, they look quite a bit more insect-like. So again, not a huge knock on the figure, but if you're going to have that perfect cube mold, there has to be some trade-offs in order to achieve that shape. And those details do have to go somewhere. Alright, let's move on to a transformation demo. What I'll say up front is this one has a pretty unique unorthodox transformation. I think it's somewhat challenging, but not frustrating, and for me, with the way it works, it's one that I'll forget how to do it if I haven't touched it in a few weeks or so. But, as with most Beastboxes, there are enough clues that you can follow to do it correctly, and everything locks into place so well that you're most likely not even going to need instructions. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get it transformed. First thing we want to do is fold down the horns. We're going to start by bringing the wings out to the sides. You'll just fold that out on the side pieces there. They'll collapse into that space, and they're going to snap into place there. So you got it on that side there. Then there's this little peg that pops into place, so you just pop that into place. The wingtips have these posts and a hole on the bottom and side that's going to lock into place. Same on the other side. For the chest piece, we'll fold that up for now. We'll get the legs rotated forward slightly just to get them up and out of the way for now. The back piece here is actually connected to this little slot type tab that'll pop up and out, and then you can bring that piece up and back for now. So at this point we can bring the head forward, rotate that back, and then the flared out side pieces will collapse in like so. The head needs to be flush with the chest. Then it's going to rotate around 180 degrees. We'll fold the wings back and give it clearance. Then we're going to rotate this piece around 180 degrees. You got this connection post? The entire wing assembly needs to be rotated around 180 degrees and lock in with that pivot piece. So flatten it, fold it down, and it fits perfectly into place. Now it's really starting to look like a cube. This tail piece is going to fold straight back, and the wings are going to fold down and around, and they just snap right into place. Again, the engineering behind this thing is just phenomenal. The legs fold forward into that groove. You've got this little groove right here, and then this tab on the toe that's going to fold up and over, and it's going to lock into that groove. Last piece is this tail piece, and it'll just fold up and pop into place, and you're good to go. You got yourself a perfect cube. Beautiful. This mold is in pretty rare company. So far, it's only one of two Beastbox or Megabox molds that forms a perfect cube. Cuckoo here is more seamless without hollow sections, but that figure is mostly simplified geometry, and, in my opinion, much less complex as far as engineering. I want to draw attention to another detail. So figures are often engineered with hollow parts, and that accomplishes a few things. It adds structural strength, it saves weight, and it makes a figure cheaper to produce. So in the case of the owls, one thing I couldn't help notice was this section. It's not identical to the bird faction symbol, but close enough that it's probably not a coincidence, so that's a cool Easter egg. And there's still more to it. You've also got this sort of a cube chicken walker mode, which to me definitely adds a humorous element. It's like something straight out of a cartoon. I was kind of curious if the owls deliberately designed to do this. I like to think it was. Either way, I think it's pretty damn funny. Now it's time to give these birds a box grade. This is my rating system of 5 points in 6 categories for a total score of anything between 0 and 30 points. From their articulated claws to very realistic wing mechanics to their extremely expressive heads and eyes, if there's one word that really defines these owls, it's expressiveness. 5 out of 5. These two have an insane amount of detail in figure sculpt, graphic details, and posability. I do think either an included 3mm perch or at minimum one that you could buy separately would have taken them to the next level. And curiously, there's no direct way to attach these owls to a figure stand, so you'll find that a little bit harder to display them in a flying pose. 4 out of 5. Their transformation is unique, somewhat complex and challenging, but ultimately fun, and all parts snap into place very nicely. These owls are supremely engineered. 5 out of 5. Nothing more really needs to be said about their articulation. This is a case where they absolutely went above and beyond what would have been necessary to make these work as owls. 5 out of 5. Plastic and joints feel great, joints snap together seamlessly, and the graphic and paint applications are top notch. Aside from a couple of squeaky joints, there's nothing at all about these that feels even the slightest bit janky. 5 out of 5. These owls are fun to transform, fun to pose, and they both look amazing. As amusing and interesting characters go in the Beastbox line, White Noise and Nocturne check all the boxes. 5 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 29 out of 30, making the owls among the very highest rated Beastboxes I've ever reviewed. Of course, this is just one guy's opinion, but I'll wrap it up here by saying that if you collect Beastboxes or just transforming figures in general, and you do not have one of these owls in your collection, you're missing out. Are there any Beastboxes that you consider must-haves for collectors? Let me know with a comment. Likes, shares, and subscriptions are always appreciated, and as always, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I'll talk to you later.